extend gratitude and appreciation for your trust in my leadership um, around building a climate survival movement here in Kentucky. Um, and so to give you guys a little bit more of a background, my position here at the Climate Mobilization Project is as Kentucky Movement Incubation Coordinator. Um, so if you go to the next slide, I have been working a lot here statewide to really like implement a lot of the theory, put, you know, theory into praxis around climate survival organizing here in Kentucky. And I'll go into that just a second, but a little bit about me and what has like really grounded me in doing a lot of this work and my framing and positionality when it comes to doing this work here in a place like Kentucky. I am a New Orleans native, so I mean, I'm a little Katrina baby. I was displaced during Hurricane Katrina in 2005. So I was born in New Orleans and I evacuated to Louisville, Kentucky, where I grew up. And I've been here ever since. And that has really influenced the way that I organize, the fact that I've been involved in a lot of different mutual aid efforts that are infused with environmental climate justice. And so it's no wonder that a lot of my focus is in disaster resiliency, you know, and yeah. Other things about me, I do a lot. I work at the Kentucky Harm Reduction Coalition, so I have a really big interest and passion for public health, healing justice. I sling syringes, so I'm a harm reductionist. I help to break stigma around people that are in active drug addiction, who are seeking resources, that need community. I'm also a certified yoga instructor. And I've founded Rise and Shine, which is a mutual aid organization that I led from 2020 up until 2021 up until this year. And so that's just a little bit about me that I thought that you guys might just appreciate. And trigger warning, I want to say the next couple of images spark something in me. So if they spark something in you, I apologize. But getting into really the catalyst of what got me into this position and what I've been working to build with organizations and community leaders across the state. Next slide, please. This is a picture that I took on my cell phone that I found that I forgot that I had. From the 2021 Kentucky tornadoes that hit in December of 2021. I was out scouting with my mutual aid organization, Rise and Shine. This was a neighborhood where majority of people were killed. We lost 80 people to that storm. And this was a storm that spanned across several different counties, several different states, and it hit us, and we didn't really get a lot of notice. Previously, I was doing a lot of community organizing work through the Sunrise Movement, if you're familiar with them, and reverted to doing a lot of like different mutual aid work in conjunction around like housing justice, disaster resiliency. I founded Rise and Shine, which was that mutual aid organization that I mentioned. And when this tornado hit, we managed to raise over $10,000 for our community and funneled over $30,000 worth of like disaster supplies across like 5 different states with like a team of 5. And so it was almost as if, you know, it's really hard to sit with it, and I don't want to get emotional, but that there were a lot of things that were placed in my life for me not to succeed. And um, growing up in poverty, like being neurodivergent, being disabled, a lot of life is already hard, but being hit with one disaster is already terrifying enough. And to go through this, only a couple of years ago was really eye opening in the way that um, I saw with my own eyes that my life was a literal, like, the residue of the fact that our system exploits us, that our system waits for moments like this to exploit us. The families that lived in this neighborhood still do not have what they need. Um, and what it took for a bunch of 20-something-year-olds that had no infrastructure, no money, but were able to move supplies and knowledge and information about resources better than our own local government could, was really powerful to me. And yeah, that's just what catalyzed a lot of this. And the next slide is um, just the flooding that happened the next year after that in Eastern Kentucky. Um, and so, I think just grounding us in this reality that Kentucky, the climate crisis is here. We don't have the infrastructure to handle it. And I I look at places like this in Eastern Kentucky that are ancient, that are indigenous, that are part of Appalachian country. Um, I see the way that we've exploited the land. Kentucky is the land of coal. Kentucky is the land of, um, you know, um, so much exploitation, indigenous removal, and we don't really talk about just what we're now seeing as the effects of a lot of that mistreatment and abuse, and so yeah, I just wanted to share that, and that this is the catalyst for them bringing me into this movement incubation program. um I realized that I needed to do something, and that I've been building relationships across the state for a while now for a reason. And a lot of my organizing has always been alternative, has always been anti-capitalist. And so in this position of, being Kentucky Movement Incubation Coordinator, I knew that I needed to pull together all of my knowledge, all of my skills, everything that I've learned in community organizing, my lived experiences through disaster and organizing through disaster. I really needed to bring the state together on this crisis, and to talk about the limitations and the challenges that we are experiencing as a movement here in Kentucky, because it's argument to say that we even have a movement. And how do we facilitate space to actually talk and get real and strategize and organize across the ecosystem around the climate crisis? And so next slide. So the Kentucky Movement Incubation Program kicked off in April of this year. And I designed a 6 month journey for more than 12, like over a dozen community leaders, organizations that include Change State, Change Tomorrow, Shout Out, Black Leadership Action Coalition of Kentucky. Hopefully I got that right. Community Control Now, Kentucky Student Environmental Coalition, as well as like so many other community leaders in different sectors of society, mind you. So pulling together artists, pulling together musicians, pulling together healers, pulling together people that are in science, data, research, for all of us to convene over the 6 months to receive political education, do deep assessments of our organizing, about our organizations, and to again really build strategy around how do we build a climate survival movement. Really getting into the nitty gritty that every single person has a stake in this crisis, in that uh, every single problem that we have in this capitalistic society can be tethered to the climate crisis. Our social crisis is an ecological crisis. Um, and so, yeah, and yeah, I there's a lot of things that came out of this program, which we're still not done, but I held a slew of interviews with each organization, all of these leaders. There's a leadership cohort that's attached to this program, and as well as moving into like actually like teaching people how to community organize, developing leaders, which kind of goes into the first takeaway, and I'll move through these briefly, is that the most disturbing challenge that we're facing in our Kentucky movement ecosystem, especially around climate survival organizing, is that there are people in positions of power that actually do not know how to community organize. And I like to tell people that community organizing is not organizing people to show up to events. It is them gathering them together to get them to take a collective action towards a social or political end. And so we're seeing a lot of convenings, we're seeing a lot of kikis, we're seeing a lot of people finding value alignment. But we know that building social clubs and, finding alignment in our values doesn't build power. It doesn't stop corporations from, you know, uh, being in the back pockets of politicians and guiding all of their decisions that influence our policy. It doesn't stop any of that. And so, yeah, the severe lack of leadership development and specifically community organizing skills here in Kentucky is very slim. And so that's something that we have been trying to cultivate and nurture through this program. And these are organizations and leaders that have been in the game for more than 20, 30 years, by the way. People that have literally told me that they do not know how to community organize. Just fact. Also, there is like a really weird dissonance happening where people aren't understanding the difference between charity and mutual aid. That we have a lot of folks that are stuck in individualized actions towards community change, that they don't actually know how to build the community systems, the neighborhood systems together to meet their neighbors' needs, to find food, in a way that doesn't retain that hierarchical structure. We're seeing, what we're mostly seeing is, in a lot of mutual aid groups, especially here in Kentucky, are subject to it, but a lot of hoarding resources, a lot of let us hold a lot of resources, food, diapers, water, what have you, and then just distribute it. And that's cutting off the self-determination of communities to actually own their goods, and not allowing them to figure out their own solutions to like their own problems. It's keeping people dependent. So definitely digging into that. A lot of burnout, which a lot of people know. And again, this thing around moving at the speed of funders, and policy change. Again, a lot of the things that we're trying to accomplish through Survival Block and build dual power, is that we don't see us surviving the climate crisis through policy, because we are seeing a lack of community organizing skills, because we're seeing a lack of an active base in our movement in general, in the climate justice movement. We can't even effectively change policy the way that we want to. and funders again are usually still in the back pockets of foundations or corporations that have other ulterior motives. And so that's just some takeaways that came through. Next slide, please. And so this is like a first because I haven't really told anybody about any of this climate survival programs that we've been developing here in Kentucky. But again, like I've been leading a team of at least 10 community leaders in a leadership cohort that's a part of this incubation program that has been redefining their community organizing skills, learning how to build team structures, grassroots fundraising advice. We really don't want to build a movement that's based on grants. You know, we really want to organize our relationships to organize our money. And so a lot of the climate survival programs that we're building, you know, are just simply rooted in community for the neighborhood. I'd like to start with the scouting program that I've been developing as a part of like Survival Block. And if anyone is like interested in this in the future, please let me know. But the community scouting program briefly is a community defense program where we hope to be training neighbors on a block by block level of how to actually organize through crisis and build their own climate survival program. Training neighbors in mutual aid, again, how to build teams, how to actually self-regulate and build somatic practices to move through like traumatizing events, disasters, radio communication, everything to set up a community for what they need to do the data, the research, the deep dive, and deep coordination of what it means to, you know, defend a community, to become self-sufficient. And so we're piloting this program here in Kentucky around the issue of food and land sovereignty. And so we want to talk to neighbors, build a base of neighbors, build a community of people that are responsible for organizing their other neighbors around, we should probably do something about the soil. It's polluted. We should probably do something about, you know, growing our own food because we don't have access to land, and maybe that's something that we want. And so that's something that's exciting coming through. Another leader, a good comrade and coworker of mine, VL, who works with the Kentucky Civic, I always get this confused, the Kentucky Student Environmental Coalition. In a similar manner, like LARC is a mobile grow room that is a vertical farming project. VL is designing the survival program with community organizers, but also other nonprofits and STEM kids that work in math and science to basically create models of these grow rooms, mobile grow rooms that can be used inside or outside. And so VL's mission really is to provide total access to fresh food and herbs to Black and Brown communities that live in low-income, marginalized neighborhoods, specifically Louisville, where we are both based. Rubber Town is the main industry that is here in Louisville that accounts for about 75% of total air pollution across the state of Kentucky. And so with folks living in the West End, which we do live close to, issues like stinky air and polluted soil and, you know, unclean water are crises that happen on a daily. And these mobile grow rooms are so important for not only food access, but the healing aspect that these communities need, something that's accessible. So that's really exciting. Iserene and Noah August, they are interested in doing an iteration. They want to be trained in community scouting, so they want to become community scouts. Again, there is a part of alternative media projects when it comes to becoming a community scout, how to like disperse information, do outreach, put it in like like pamphlets and zines and other mediums that people can access information about environmental harms, resources that are in their community. They want to create a community survival newspaper where they are outlining all of these harms, these resources, and doing things by a neighborhood block by block level. Olivia Quails is our Eastern Kentucky organizer. So they live in Appalachia, which they were a part of the flood relief efforts from that picture that I showed you. They are interested in building a neighborhood resilience hub. And so just a one-stop shop place, for people to receive shelter if a disaster does come, if another flood does come. Eastern Kentucky is super susceptible to torrential downpours and floods. And we can thank the coal mining industry for that. And so, but also in a place like Eastern Kentucky, this is extremely important for folks that are homophobic. Right-wing extremists live in that area. And so this would also be a space to build community, for people to get their needs met, so forth and so forth. And lastly is from Destiny Carter, who is co-founder of Nurture the West. They're also an incredible local DJ. They are the greatest DJ that I've ever heard in my life, at least one of them. They're amazing. Nurture the West is a healing initiative that is Nurture the West is a healing initiative that is for Black people in the West End of Louisville, to have access to healing tools like yoga. Destiny also offers sound healing. Destiny wants to curate grief sessions for those folks, those clients that do come into that space and receive those tools. There's not a lot of mutual aid and community organizing that is at the back end of that service that they provide to the community. So incorporating mutual aid, community organizing, and a healing element is going to build better resiliency for her neighborhood, and so that they can actually have space to talk about these issues and actually have the time to grieve the people that they've lost in the West End and from other issues like police violence.